This episode of Misery Hunters is brought to you by Paisley Craft Beer Co. Paisley's craft beer store located in Silk Street in the town centre. There are hundreds of different beers on show for you to take away or even sit in and enjoy. Not only that, St Mirren season ticket holders will get 10% off beer purchases on match days when you present a valid season ticket. That's to take away or sit in as well. You can click and collect via their website at www.paisleycraftbeer.com. That's www.paisleycraftbeer.com. Hello, you miserable bastards, and welcome to the Misery Hunters podcast. My name is Jamie Coburn, and joining me is Mark Jardine.
Hello.
And only Mark Jardine.
Yeah. What more could you want?
The rest are just all letdowns. Like,
we should probably address the controversy with all them. We actually tried to record this podcast earlier in the week, and Ross made a couple of comments about Andrew and Craig being bald, and Sam stepped up and slapped him. And it's just become a bit of a thing. So,
well, that's because Sam's kind
apologies
of
have been
heading
made
that way as well, isn't he? It's getting very thin up there.
Yeah. She said it wasn't on. Told him to take Andrew and Craig's name out of his fucking mouth. And here we are. But so it's very much a two-man podcast for the foreseeable future, I think.
I know it's been that long since half of them have been on. Like, are they even part of the podcast now? Who knows?
It's the big question.
I mean, the listenerships went up, so always
put it to a vote. We can start voting someone off each week.
It's become Big Brother.
Yeah, and then if people want to apply to join, then I would encourage them to send messages to Jamie's personal Twitter account. That's at Jamie Coburn.
Please don't. But I will listen to you if you come to my place of work, which is Paisley Craft Beer Co. I'll listen to you for 10 minutes for every can that you buy. So if you want to plead your case...
For the price of just 50 quid, you can chat to him for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, but it's a good beer you'll be getting. So it's been a wee while since the last game, but we still do need to talk about it. It might not be fully negative because we do have that goal to talk about. So it was Dundee United 2, St Mirren 1. Almost blowing our chances for top 6. Whether that's still a realistic chance, we know we still can get there. 2 difficult games ahead, but we started so brightly in this match. And, the goal from Jay was just tremendous. Very similar to the one that he scored against Dundee United before. But I don't know. I think this one was just slightly better.
I think so. It went across the goal this time instead of going the kind of near post, the first one, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's just so exciting to see someone playing for us who's come through our system, who has it in them to take that first touch. And from the moment the ball's hit at him, to take that touch, he knows exactly where he's going and what he's doing. And we've said it before, but with Henderson, I don't think he's necessarily been the most polished winger with the chances he's had, but he's always shown himself to be direct and to have something in his locker. And since the Celtic game, which was the kind of game where for me he kind of broke back into consideration and he's kind of favoured position again, he's just got this drive in him. He looks a bit stronger, a bit bulkier, a bit hardier as well, not as willing to be pushed off the ball, not showing his age quite as much. And I think in a season of relatively few goals, but quite a high percentage of really good goals, that'll absolutely deserve to get kept in the list with some of Ronan's best and McGrath's best when we get to the end of the season. It was an absolute peach.
I think with under Stephen Robinson and the way he plays, I think this is a good chance for a player like him and some of the other younger players that's already kind of been mentioned, for them to flourish in the team. I'm looking forward to next season and with maybe a wee bit more better players and a kind of better idea of what Stephen Robinson's wanting. I think someone definitely to be excited for. We've always had that kind of youth player coming through that you hope is going to do well, and we may have, we've not really had it since probably Lewis Morgan. So it's nice to kind of have that again with someone. And the endless nicknames, which we started with wee J. Now it's Jamar, Ginaldo.
Diego Maradona.
Diego Maradona. I like that.
There's plenty there. I'm a big fan of the Academy Twitter account getting on the Jamar train, and using that hashtag. Long may that continue. If you use the Jamar hashtag more than 10 times between now and the end of the season and can prove it, Jamie will give you a free t-shirt.
Oh, stop making all these promises. I'll give you a free t-shirt, but it doesn't have to. It might not be a Misery Hunters t-shirt. It might be just an old Skaggy one that I found in my drawer, right?
from Burton's 2012 collection or something.
I generally think it is probably one of my old work t-shirts that I don't really wear.
I think with BJ, the thing is that Robinson definitely plays with wingers, and he needs numbers in order to make that happen. I can always remember those Motherwell teams in the competition. Was it Marvin Johnson, Jermaine Hilton, Seedorf there for a time, James Scott playing out wide. Always had options. So I think the encouraging thing for someone like Henderson is, even though he's maybe kind of our only out-and-out winger, along with Jordan Jones since Christmas just now, you would think us signing wingers next year would mean that he would, maybe not get the same amount of chances, but actually we're not going to sign 4 wingers. There's no chance. We don't go out and sign 4 players for a single position in a window when we also need to sign fullbacks and probably a goalkeeper and all the rest of it. So a good transfer window for Robinson to play more like he wants. You would assume he's going to need to sign maybe at least 2 wingers. I would be surprised if we could hold on to Jones with the money that he'll be getting paid and the options that he might have. But maybe we do. But there's still going to be a slot there for Henderson, and I think he's essentially guaranteed to be in the picture next year in a team that's going to be more set up to suit his game. I think Robinson wants guys like that are direct, that can put the service into the strikers that he'll have at that point, who, along with Brophy and Grieve, we saw Kieran Offord sign a new deal, which I think, given the club and Robinson were quite upfront about the interest that there was in him, he's only signing a deal if he's getting some football.
He went on trial, didn't he, at Wigan at one point?
I think so. There was talk of him being away a couple of times, and I know that he's got attention since he was in the Scotland setup, in the 16s when he was underage group as well. So, I think doesn't sign a 3-year deal if he's not been told he's getting football, and he's a good finisher. And it's the same for Jameson as well. He's not quite set the header like with his loan spells, but I don't think anyone that's watched him or coached him has come away saying he's anything other than a finisher. So
I think the Inverness fans quite liked him.
Yeah, and Clyde, they seem to be. They seem to be on him, and Clyde fans' opinion on strikers is something that we should all respect. Entirely infallible,
as long as it's not about their personal life.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're going to be set up with strikers next year who, instead of being big physical guys who play a role, kind of have a tactical job to play for the betterment of the rest, I think we're going to come in with, you would assume, at least in Brophy, Grieve, and one of Offord or Jameson, maybe one of them will go out on loan. It's going to be strikers who are there to finish chances. They're good goal scorers. They're there to be in the box and take chances, and have wingers to support that. And if that's what we're building, Henderson's going to get chances, and he's going to get a stage to produce as well. It's not going to be a thankless task running the full touchline and then crossing the ball into Lee Erwin. And if you do that 100 times, then you might get something. I think if we play the right way, then Henderson, I think, could really have a proper breakthrough year next year.
I think with other wingers coming in as well, it might give Henderson more experienced players is only going to help better his game. Someone to learn off of in training and help him improve his game a bit, because
competition.
We've not really had proper wingers for him to do that. And I mean, Durmus didn't speak any English, so I can't imagine that really helped him.
Connolly maybe give him some sprint training.
Aye, so you'd run. I don't know how to stop yet, but I'll get there.
What do you do when you get to those white lines at the end of the pitch, Dylan? No idea, mate.
But the thing you said about Offord and stuff, possibly going out on loan, I don't even think they'll go out on loan. I think the reason he's been, even Jameson, we can pack a bench. We've always had less players on our bench than we're allowed to put in. Sometimes we've named 2 goalkeepers. Yet you've got all this youth that have got potential that are sitting, Kieran Offord's sitting in the Lowland League.
Scoring for fun.
He could be on our bench And who would you rather, when you look with 10 minutes to go, are you wanting Curtis Main to come on, or are you wanting Kieran Offord? You want the young guy. The same with Jameson.
100%.
You know, it's something good when you think back to like previous teams before Goodwin, we've always had a young player to bring on. And it's kind of disappeared under Goodwin, where I can't really remember the last time we had a proper young player that we'd bring on for some experience, some minutes and stuff. He got Henderson.
Before this season, you had Finlayson sitting there, but he was just a name on the bench. You know, I don't remember him getting subbed on.
Is he? I think he's still technically at the club, but
he's on loan, and I think he'll be part of the first team squad next year as well. It'll be someone that will take, because I think he's been good at Kelty from what I've heard. You know, it's a good Kelty team, so.
But we should probably get back to this game, and we've veered off as much as we can. I mean, the Dundee United, we controlled the first half really well, and we had the chances. Brophy missed one that wasn't too far off. But then when it got to Dundee United, I missed the second goal because I was actually streaming it the first goal for Dundee United, the equaliser, because I was streaming St Mirren TV in the shop, and it was the feed cut, and it had the score at the bottom. I didn't have the sound on because I did have customers on. And the next thing I saw Ali Defoy talking, and then it went back to the. Thankfully, it went back to the just the placeholder screen, and then I just noticed the score had changed to 1 each. I was like, "What?"
Brutal.
And I actually still haven't seen the goal. I was watching the highlights when you came on there, Mark. I think I stopped.
Well, at the time I actually went in, I was standing in a garden in Barhead, wishing my gran a happy 90th through her living room window because she was sitting in there with COVID. So I wasn't there, but I did manage to get all the way through the highlights, so I have seen it. It's not a mile away from Henderson's finish at all. It's a really tidy finish from either just outside or just inside the box, kind of out wide to the right, and he puts it across Anik to the, I think he maybe goes in off the post or in off the side netting at least. But it's a really tidy finish, and Levitt's a very tidy footballer. You know, he's not in the Wales picture for no reason, and you would expect him to probably take a bit of a step up after this as he grows and gets a bit more experience. From our point of view, not for the first time this season, we let someone just kind of bumble through us. You know, balls bouncing off defenders, and then the attacking player being the one that's a bit more aware of where it's going and staying on top of it. And before you know it, a guy with that kind of talent standing in a few yards of space in a really dangerous position. And if he didn't pull out a finish like that, he could probably have done something else to feed in, you know, a couple of the different attacking options that Dundee United have got. We left ourselves in a really vulnerable position, and it was just the way it happened, that it was a real moment of quality that unlocked us, but you could see something else coming. Totally. And I think that's the frustration. I think putting other stuff that we've moaned about recently to one side, Goodwin's stubbornness, and his unwillingness to change in the face of it being demanded, was probably his single biggest flaw. And I think to watch Dundee United make two really decisive changes, and to see that then work as well as it did, it's a bit disappointing to see us not make a change for another 20 odd minutes. And even then, I don't think it was too little too late, and I don't think it necessarily put us on the front foot at that point. It's almost kind of damage limitation to make the changes at that point when you're already hanging on. So not ideal, but I do think I'm absolutely not giving Robinson a free pass. And I think you would assume probably now that, you know, it would take a bit of stroke of luck to see it through. I don't think you should just get a free pass off that. I think there's questions to answer. But it would be harsh to, you know, if Robinson's been in charge of 15% of the games before the split, Goodwin's been in charge of 85. I still think there's more questions to be answered from the 12-game winless run last year and everything else than there is with what's here just now. I just don't think it really apportions out to be entirely Robinson's fault.
I mean, we'll get to that in a second. We've got Jack Anik sending off. Is it harsh? Like he's made the referee make a decision. So. I've seen people say it's not a red, and Tony Watt kind of pushed defender sort of into him.
He pushes. I think it's McCarthy.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think if you take the push out of it, Anik is off the ground with his leg raised and goes through the man. Like, I know there's different rules that apply for goalkeepers and all the rest of it, but the cliche of if literally anyone else does that to someone who's running through,
Yeah.
you're gonna, and you do have to protect strikers in that instance. Like, if you're running to try and get on the end of a ball, you're not guarding your kidneys or your ribs or anything like it, and you can't let a keeper away with like jumping into your knee first at like rib height. So even if it wasn't the most violent challenge we've seen all season, I didn't have that many complaints about the red coming out. It could have been a yellow, and if it'd been inside the box and it was a penalty, it would have been a yellow, I guess, because of double jeopardy. But with it being outside the box, I kind of think it was on the verge of being fair enough.
Yeah, and then
you could have given the foul just before it happened, which I suppose would cancel it out. For pushing McCarthy, but I don't think that has an impact on the actual challenge or the foul or anything else, because either way, Anik's still coming in like that and he's hitting something, so I don't know.
Yeah, and then the inevitable happened, the 97th minute goal.
Yeah,
it is extremely bad fortune. Like, it's just, like you said, it's just balls bouncing, comes off the post, and then it's just there for him to get it in.
We just seem to lose our composure whenever that's happening. It tends to go against us, or at least that's how it feels.
Yeah, the ball always, like a 50-50 ball, like it can land anywhere, it always lands in the opposition.
And part of that's only so much of that can be chance and fortune, and then some of it has to be how we position ourselves and how quickly we react to things. And I think, is it maybe Dunn that's in the middle when the ball goes across? And
Dunn's had a really poor game.
Yeah, he's had a few in a row, or at least a few out of the last however many, where he's not doing himself many favours.
No.
As a footballer, I don't mind him. Like, he was slow to start, but you could definitely see the attributes about him and why he was there. You know, if you can get him up to speed and get him playing again, you know, he's kind of got a lot of things that you would want. But he's had a fairly poor run, and if you're trying to endear yourself to a new manager, even if it's one you knew before, I don't think he's necessarily done that good a job of it. And you would maybe be putting a left-sided centre-half on your shopping list.
Yeah. Less about this game now. We'll kind of look over.
Yeah, let's move on.
The Stephen Robinson derby, if you will. Him returning back to his old club, Motherwell away. Always usually a good game at Fir Park. There've been a few crackers the past few years. Big game for us. If we still want to finish in our top six, this is a must win. Like, it's probably like, I'm not going to be too angry if we don't finish top six. I'll be disappointed, but like, the kind of season we've had, and like the run that Goodwin had before January, then him leaving, just as the run was getting a bit better. I don't think that if we don't finish top six, it's not because of the past 5-6 games. It was that run before Christmas that cost us that top six place.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I don't think the weekend necessarily changes this one. I think you look at those 3 fixtures we had before the split, and you're thinking we probably have to win 2 of them. And the one that's changed as a result of not winning against Dundee United is Rangers. Rangers was the 3rd game. And the one where, if you do your job properly, you don't need to worry about the Rangers game. So now we need to go into the Rangers game knowing that we need a result, which changes that. The Motherwell game was always, when you saw what was left on the board, always a game we had to get something from, and we need to hold that attitude, I think. Can't be too cautious.
We're going to be without Anik for these 2 games, isn't it? It's 2 match suspension he got for a straight red, is that right?
I guess so.
So we've got Linus.
Is it his 2nd red of the season?
Yeah.
So they might add one on.
Also, maybe 3. Well, Linus will come in, like he's a safe pair of hands. He done well against Celtic when he was called upon. I've
come round to Linus. I don't really have any issues with him at all. I did previously think that we were in a bit of trouble if Anik was out and Linus was there. But he's done absolutely nothing wrong in any of the chances he had to step up. So whether that makes him a number one after this year, we'll get to, and I don't necessarily think so. But I don't feel, particularly with Anik's kind of slight drop in, particularly his distribution, but generally speaking, kind of slight drop in his performances more recently. I don't think it's necessarily that much of a blow to have Linus coming into these games.
We're also looks like we'll probably be without Alex Grieve, because how long is he away with New Zealand? Because they're in that wee league thing.
It was 3 games he played.
3 games.
He played again tonight, so
one more.
You're thinking, no, he's played. He started one, come on as a sub on Sunday or Monday, and then started tonight. I mean, that's what, a 12-hour flight and an 8-hour flight or whatever it is.
Yeah, so he's probably,
over the course of the next few days. That's a big ask.
So we'll be back for his first hat trick against Rangers. That's what we want to see. So we're obviously you'll start with Brophy in this match. I can imagine we're going to start very similar to how we started the Dundee United game. I'm hoping Connor Ronan isn't injured. The fact that he's been called up to the Ireland squad and he didn't even make the bench in 2 of the games, slightly worrying.
You wonder if someone else, maybe even McGrath, would have been called up, and because he's been playing unders to get back from injury, I wonder if he was very much the 23rd man or whatever, 24th man, and he was there for the experience of being in the squad more so than anything else. I think if he was injured, I hope we would have heard about it, but
that's true. But I mean, I'm confident in this match. I can see Stephen Robinson's team starting to click, and we're looking a wee bit better. Obviously we didn't end the game too well. We didn't respond well to the changes that Dundee United made. But when you look at that bench that we had, other than bringing Alex Grieve on earlier, there wasn't too much you can really do to change.
There weren't difference makers there.
Yeah.
You're basically looking at fresh legs more than...
Yeah, for swaps, essentially.
Or a change of shape, but not a change of shape to go and chase the game.
No.
Which I think says all.
So I reckon I'm going for a 2-0 win.
I'll go 2-1 to us just to be optimistic, although I've seen literally nothing that makes me think that'll actually happen.
And we should point out that we've signed Mark O'Hara on a pre-contract.
Yeah. I mean, we were in for him before he signed for Motherwell, and he chose to go and play for Robinson.
That was the season that Misery Hunters more or less predicted our entire transfer window.
I've always... Is it Kelly who came through that?
Yeah.
And he was a bit of a kind of can play anywhere type. Did he not come through as more of a defensive player? But over the course of the season, I think played back line in the middle and then as almost an attacking midfielder at times.
Josh McGuinness thing about him where he was he could play kind of anywhere. Anytime I've seen him on the telly, which admittedly isn't a particularly high number and covers quite a span of years, I always liked him. And when I heard we were interested in him a couple of years ago, I was keen. He's a name that stands out and generally has a decent level. I still remember that game against Motherwell where he completely ripped us apart.
Yeah, totally. And I think if he's happiest times in the last while have been playing under Robinson, then I think that's an indicator of what he's wanting to do and what he's wanting to build. And for all I like Power and Gogic and Ronan, I'm not against us having a new midfield next year if it plays towards something else. So
I'm really intrigued.
I think it's a positive
to find out who the other names are that we've apparently got signed up. Nothing's really been mentioned. So
I think I would be surprised if a keeper wasn't one of them.
Yeah, it's, well, I think Anik's away. He's probably going to go to Aberdeen. I saw Hibs getting mentioned, but Hibs goalkeeping situations seems okay now. I can't imagine them looking for someone else. So when you look at Aberdeen and the problems they've had, one of them is Joe Lewis, who went from being the best keeper in the league to someone who can be a bit shaky at times. And I think
it's the lowest save percentage by quite a distance. I think I don't know if it was Andrew that maybe put that stat in a blog fairly recently, or was it something else on Twitter? His save percentage is horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're facing more shots because they're weaker in defence and he's saving less of the shots he faces, then you've got to imagine Goodwin's a fairly ruthless guy when it comes to it. I don't think sentiment will really come into it too much. You know, he binned Scott Brown within a month of coming in. Lewis is a different proposition, having been there longer and been there for the good times that Aberdeen fans are trying to get back to, but I can't imagine him, you know, kind of hanging too much on sentiment there. I think he'll put his own, it might be Anik, I might not, but I think he'll put his own man in regardless.
Yeah. And any more for any more on those points? In terms of
transfer, we're going to be speaking to wingers 100% because I think we've got one guaranteed to be here next season. So
yeah,
you would assume even if you're not entirely convinced on performances yet or not, that he's asking Jordan Jones what he's going to do next year, just for the sake of numbers, if nothing else. But on top of that, we need another two wingers. There's kind of no other way to get round that unless you're going to play Kelty there, which I don't see. I think Kelty's there by default just now. So
yeah, the thing is with Kelty, like we saw better from him when we played him in the middle, and pushing him out kind of the wide doesn't really work, and I'd rather see him return to the middle.
And if he's going to play Power and Gogic, then Ronan, how'd you drop the guy that scored the goal against Hearts? So Ronan's going to get the nod in that more central position if that's how you're going to play. And then if you're going to play Ronan a bit deeper and play him wider, then I don't really think that's Kelty's game.
Yeah.
Either. So I kind of feel like he's maybe been left. He's a name that, did we sign him up for 2 or 3 years? I wouldn't be amazed if that's a guy that it doesn't fit with in the summer, and he ends up maybe getting moved on. Yeah, I think if Robinson had faith in him, he would probably be accommodating him a bit more already, and he kind of seems to be the one, similar to how McGrath was right before he left, where if someone needs to go into an unfamiliar place or somewhere they'd rather be just to give the rest of the team shape, then that's where you're going, and tough. Greaves did play wide left for New Zealand tonight, kind of off of Chris Wood, as their more out and out striker. And not a huge amount of composure, but very, very busy, like involved in everything, throwing himself about and getting halved. So winning set pieces, which when you're a team like New Zealand and Chris Wood and all the rest of it, is how a lot of their attacks, I think, are built. So he definitely plays a role for them. So maybe Greaves someone that maybe takes one of those slots.
Yeah.
And then you allow him to play outside. But I think if we're already signing players, you would assume width has got to be a factor in that, because that has to be a priority, surely.
And on that note, we will be back after this.
Hi, I'm Alex Grieve, and you're listening to Misery Hunters.
It's the only button I'm going to press now from now on, just so you're aware.
Yes, he's some man.
So, no Billy Mehmet Hall of Fame this week. We're going back to an old format. No, it's not a game. Mark, take it away.
Here we are with the jingleless feature that you all love to hate. Unpopular opinions. But the good news is it's about someone and about football. So you don't need to talk to us about our favourite Chinese places and the centre of Paisley or anything like that. We can leave that for the end of the season. And I'm going to get through it in a kind of respectful tone as well. I've decided, bring the feature back, maybe bring back some of the positivity and good manners, which I would have thought were my trademark before I started doing this feature before, and became a horrible troll of a human. So I'll try and behave myself. Not to let you all behind the curtain too much, but the intention was to do the Hall of Fame when I thought we were going to record this last week, and I just didn't have time. So instead of me spending time, I just put a tweet out and let all of you do the work for me, and then we ended up having an extra week. But I'd already tweeted at that point, so here we are. And the dangers of having an actual job that you need to do every now and then, instead of working from home and having loads of time to make stuff up. But here we are. So if you've made the cut, congratulations and apologies in advance for us calling you stupid. First up, everyone's favourite tattooless Twitter account, Callum Flockhart. or as he's better known, he who shat out of getting a Misery Hunters tattoo.
I'm actually annoyed that he's even managed to make the cut.
It was a factor, and actually the tweet that he sent is a point that other people made, and I actually thought I might just go and take someone else's out of spite, but I'm putting out an olive branch here, Callum. So we're reading your tweet out. We're being broadly respectful. Go and get the tattoo. And then we can move on from this sorry episode. If we get to a World Cup in Qatar in November and you still don't have a tattoo from a qualifier in 2021, I don't think it's done anyone any favours. So we'll be in your DMs. But anyway, Callum's tweet is, Anik should be dropped for the rest of the season and we shouldn't even make an attempt to keep him at this point.
Well, I don't think we're making an attempt to keep him, so that's part of that.
I think that's taking care of itself.
I can understand the sentiment. However, I would agree with this if, and that's a big if, see if we finish in the bottom 6.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm more than happy with that. See if we finish in the top. Actually, or do you want the more experienced keeper just in case you happen to... Like, I know it's very slim chances, but chances are still there, and you know what St Mirren are like. We still can finish in that playoff spot. St Johnstone have won a few games in a row. I think they're 9 points. We're 9 points ahead of them. So you never know. So maybe actually if we finish in the relegation bottom 6, keep Anik, and then if we finish top 6, I mean, are we going to progress much higher than 6? Probably not. Then we play Dean Linus for the experience.
Yeah. I mean, Dean Linus is what? Late 20s?
Yeah. I mean, like he's...
Maybe could even be 30. Yeah. I mean, if Raminski was the keeper that was sitting on the bench
and
he wasn't getting loan games, then maybe, because he's someone that does just need minutes. I don't know. We covered it a bit there. I don't think there's necessarily a huge gulf between Anik and Linus just now, so I don't even think it's a case of... Do you mean it's not bringing Scott Carson on and giving Ederson a rest at this point? It's, who's the better keeper, Dean Henderson or David De Gea? There's not that much between them just now. They do slightly different things, and I don't think Dean Linus has done much wrong. So if you were to tell me that on balance you thought Linus was the better keeper for now and you wanted to play him for the rest of the season, I think that's probably fine. I wouldn't be dropping Anik just as a point of principle because he's going to move on. I don't think he's not going to throw the towel in. He's not had slightly poorer games recently because he's not as bothered. He's just not in a great run of form, and I think he probably still is. I think he's comfortably the more talented goalkeeper, and I think right now he's probably still on balance the better goalkeeper. So I'm not against Linus getting more minutes, but I don't think we should be, chucking Anik just because we don't think he's going to be here next season.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't be as cold as that about it. To stay on a similar theme for this, and then actually a third tweet after this, at Davy Chor buries Dean Linus, excuse me, and says that Linus, well good, isn't tall enough to be our first choice goalkeeper, and the best he can hope for is to be back up to whoever comes in again. Of the two, Arminski stands a better chance of eventually becoming Saints number 1.
Is that just because Arminski's big and tall?
Basically, I mean, Arminski's what, 6'5".
That's such an old school view of football, in it, that they're too tall.
I mean, Shea Given did all right for 5'9".
I mean, one of my favourite St Mirren goalkeepers was Craig Hinchcliffe, and he was tiny.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and some of our worst keepers have been our, kind of big units as well. So I don't know. I think broadly speaking, there's maybe a point there. I think Linus, unfortunately for him, is just a slightly unfashionable name. If he's on merit, he's not that far away from being our number 1 at all. But if you're giving Robinson the keys to the estate and kind of saying, go and build your own team, I don't necessarily think he's going to let Anik go and then be like, and this guy that sat on the bench for 3 years, he's going to be the number 1. He knows people. He'll go out and pick someone who kind of fits his. Either he's coached before or he's got good references on and he thinks got a higher ceiling. I think that's the way he'll go.
The goalkeeper position is extremely important in this league as well. Like, if you do not have a good goalkeeper, if you look at the last few teams to get relegated from the Premier League and you look who their goalkeepers have been, like Danny Rogers, Who was the Dundee goalkeeper when we relegated them? He was
Jack Hamilton.
Jack Hamilton.
Stinking.
You know, like these when you've got players like that, like who probably have been, if someone has seen something in them at some point, you know, we've seen Dean Linus here and there. We've not seen him get a proper run. Are you wanting that to, like, if you make that decision and we can't fix that decision until January, you could be, that could be you like down and buried. Like it's a big risk. So
yeah, and at Arminsky, I just don't think we know enough.
I think Stenhouse Muir fans like him because I saw they were really annoyed when we had to bring him back.
Yeah,
and like call it like a temporary emergency kind of thing. But that's what he needs. He needs more of that before.
Yeah, I think Arminsky stands a better chance of becoming number 2 in the long term, because I would assume that if, you know, similar to Goodwin not getting a coaching job, when we moved on from Craig and all that kind of stuff, he then thought, well, now or never, and moved on and took his chance elsewhere. If Linus doesn't get number 1, you'll probably think, well, I'm not going to do it and I need to go now if I'm going to get one. And he's absolutely good enough across the championship.
Yeah.
For sure. And then maybe even, you know, your kind of Dundees or whatever else. I don't think he's good enough for us. He's certainly good enough for them. If he doesn't get number 1, then I would imagine he'd probably be off. And if Arminsky's had some more games this year, and because Stenny are part-time, he'll still be training with us, so Robinson will be seeing him. So I think I would take your point, but I think you're probably talking about number 2 at that point, and then you're a few years off being able to have a conversation about Arminsky stepping up from that level, I think.
But regardless, that's not because of their height.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that comes into it at this level anyway. Third goalkeeper point, and just a quick one at Griff Gordon. Gordon Griffiths says, I would be trying to do a loan deal for Vaclav. Ipswich don't rate him. And then there was a kind of full conversation there about how they brought someone in from Brighton maybe, and just shuttled Hladky off onto the bench, and he doesn't seem to be getting a look in. I think what I would say on that one is that even if it's League 2 down south, he will have bigger financial options.
League 1.
No, but I mean, like, even at the end of this, like, even if it is League 2 again, if it's, you know, not Salford but whoever, he will have options that will pay him more money, and he'll be able to stay down there and his ambitions down there longer term. I don't see us being able to attract him back, unfortunately.
I think this chapter for him is closed. That's just not going to.
Yeah, which you know, I can't imagine anyone would turn him down. Coming back, the only reason you would have for turning him down on a loan deal is that you don't want a keeper on loan. You would rather have someone in who you can trust, that you can put a contract on and have them for at least, you know, the kind of 3 seasons that we've had Anik for. 2 seasons?
2. Yeah.
2. I can imagine that's the only argument you'd find from our side, but if you're going to get enough quality, then I'm not against loan players at all. If it's someone that knows the place, you don't have the same worries about motivation either. So, as well as, but I don't see him coming back, if I'm honest. Graham Orr at Gore 1877. Are we turning into St Mirren next season? A team full of well cast-offs.
This argument always annoys me. Like when you're at the level that we're at, you sign players from other clubs. That's the thing. Like we made the joke as well about signing those ex-Kilmarnock players and ex-Motherwell players, or now it's ex-Motherwell players. But like it's always been a thing with St Mirren. I remember when the stage, like I think it was John Coughlin that signed a load of ex-Killie players, which included Gus McPherson. And then Gus McPherson kind of continued the trend. I can't remember if it was him or Coughlin that brought in like Ali Mitchell. There was like Gavin Riley.
What was that before?
We brought
Mark Riley.
Mark Riley, not Gavin Riley. Mark Riley. Martin Baker came back.
Dargo.
Craig Dargo. You know, it's always been a thing. Like
and Motherwell and Kilmarnock are both.
They're very similar.
Central belt clubs of a similar size, where sometimes a player doesn't work out one place just because he's not the right fit for the manager or the tactics or the town or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a bad. Like, do you know what I mean? Kilmarnock can get relegated, and Alan Power can still be a Premiership quality midfielder. I don't think 1 point negates the other, and I don't think Marco Harris a sign something that should be looked at negatively. I think that's a positive sign,
and it's definitely not like Motherwell's cast off. I think there'll be a few Motherwell fans that'll be slightly annoyed by the fact that Marco Harris leaving.
Yeah, take KB the contract.
Yeah, to come
to stay there. Dunn, if he'd been fit, I think had a lot of fans, and they would probably rather that at that point he was fit and playing for.
We will admit Curtis Main. That was an unfortunate incident, but that's solely on Jim Goodwin's head and no one else's.
And Lee Irwin, where we're talking about
Lee Irwin. I mean, and
it could be that we sign.
You know, we had Alan Gow, David Clarkson. It's been a thing.
It could be that we sign less Motherwell cast-offs under Robertson now that we're going back and doing the arithmetic.
So
I don't really buy it. I don't think he's going to go out and sign 5 players that weren't good enough for Motherwell and are suddenly now first teamers for us. But I don't think him going and using players that he trusts, that he knows he could get a performance out of, that maybe haven't worked under Alexander. I don't think that's a negative. I would always rather we do stuff like that if you think you're going to get a tune out of them than, you know, the Stubbs route or whatever else of signing guys who are 22 and have played 8 first team games in their total career, and you bring them up on loan. Like I would always rather go the more experienced route and then use your own youth. So, and also, if rumours are true and it's Trevor Carson that we're signing to replace our goalkeeper, I know he's not really a cast off. It's like Motherwell have a really good goalkeeper and go like under Liam Kelly. You know, he had a chance to go down south. It didn't work for him, and he's came back up and he's doing really well for Motherwell. Like Trevor Carson's is too good to be a number 2 goalkeeper, and it's unfortunate he had that where he get caught under like Mark Gillespie, who's now at Newcastle, and then when he because of his injuries, his health concerns as well. Like it's just all timing. He would have held on to that shirt for a much longer time if that hadn't happened. So.
And he's also
that's who we end up.
He's on the fringes of the Northern Ireland squad as well. Another international player. Like
Saints Fraser probably end up playing again. Like what more do you want? So I can see where the point's coming from, but I don't necessarily buy it. I'm not concerned by it anyway. At Mark Cherry 19, if we don't get Jay Henderson on a long-term deal, he'll be the next McGinn or Hladky to leave for fuck all.
I mean, McGinn didn't leave for fuck all, but...
Yeah, but the kind of point taking, you could replace that name with McLean or Morgan-ish or whatever. I think you would have to have another season, and I think I maybe said something similar to this last year. And he's done lots of stuff this year. I think you would probably have to have another season of maybe slightly more consistent performances and
more consistent and a run in the team where you say that he is definitely on. Like these players, McGinn, Mallon, you know, they were playing week in, week out. Henderson, he sometimes cameos off the bench or he'll start. If he gets more starts, then maybe.
Yeah. I think that's where we sit basically. I would give him I think he did sign a new deal last year.
I think so. Yeah, I remember.
Or the summer. But I wouldn't be against giving him like a 3-year deal now because I think he's good enough to be either in starting for us or certainly in the picture. And I don't think there's a lot of lose. You know, there's not a downside to giving him a longer contract. But I don't think he's someone that I would be looking at thinking if we don't tie him down beyond the end of next season, we're going to lose him to Hearts or. I think that would be dependent on next season, so you're then just kind of gambling, which is maybe Mark's point. He would expect that to happen next season. I think he's certainly capable of having a season like that, and in that case, we probably will be scrambling. So, not against it all. Him getting a longer deal is certainly a prospect. Peter Gordon, this is what I like to see. We're never happy. We complained that the football under Goodwin was dull, but we were difficult to beat. Robinson wants to give us a more attacking style, but that's creating gaps that are leaking goals. The transition will all be a bit of a roller coaster. Keep the faith.
Essentially,
I broadly agree with all of that.
I mean, we love him on like.
Yeah, number one, love to have stuff to moan about.
I mean, the podcast is called Misery Hunters for a reason.
Yeah, it brings us together once every week or two to moan about really trivial things. So. that needs to be fed. That needs fuel. So
also, that St Mirren Facebook page is getting. I think it's its worst it's ever been, and it's always been bad. But I think it's new levels.
I showed you during the week a screenshot out of my WhatsApp history from 2018 where I'd sent to someone, right, that's me binning that Facebook group. It's a load of shit and I can't do it to myself. And here I am 4 years later still taking screenshots.
That's the main purpose of being in it, is to send your pals going, can you believe this guy's opinion? I also plugged the podcast in it, so if you happen to listen to it and found it by the Facebook page, I'm not talking about you.
No, it's all the rest of them. You're fine.
Yeah, everyone who listens.
Safe to say, if you're liking our posts in there or you're like contributing to the conversation and giving us stuff to talk about, we like you. It's fine. It's everyone else. There's 5,500 people in there. I mean,
it's the ones we
you're probably you're in the good 500.
It's the ones we want to talk about, but the fact is, you know where I work and I don't really want you to turn up. So
yeah. Sorry, Peter, you made a really salient point there, and then we've just ended up having a big dig at Facebook instead.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, it's the same people that will moan about us playing high ball and shout, get it on the deck, but if we start passing about, it's, just get it up the park. It's the same folk.
Yeah.
They're never happy.
The big issue with Robinson was us creating gaps at the back and not getting shots on target. Fine if you want to change how we play, but there needs to be something that you get in return for losing a bit of the security at the back. And initially, that hasn't been the case. But the last couple of games, we've certainly been more on the front foot. That United game, I think it was only one shot on target, but we had 10 shots in the game, and we were in the game in terms of possession and all the rest of it. And that's with the second half where we were broadly outplayed as well. So we are creating a bit more. And I think, as with anything else, it's just recruitment. I just think we've backed him now. We need to just let him go off and do what he needs to do. And the encouraging thing with that interview, which is the best, and I mean, maybe it's kind of Pied Piper bollocks and all the rest of it, but that interview with Robinson from the PD, where he's talking about the kind of lack of sentimentality, the fact that he's already having tough conversations with people because he knows what he wants, not pussyfooting over the fact that we had a good year last year but we missed a lot of chances. It shows that there's standards there, and he's not just there to try and keep the good times rolling when the good times actually amounted to a 7th place finish and no cup finals. So all that stuff I thought was very, very encouraging, and I'm more than willing to back Robinson for next year and a year beyond that, assuming there isn't a massive car crash next year, of trying to play a bit more expansively and attacking and seeing who we can get in to do that. So I'm all for it. We can probably just deal with this one in a couple of words each. Jamie, I put this one in as a quick fire. Run, Roscoe, run. Gogic's bang average. Fuck off, Ross.
Yep. Fuck off, Ross.
And on to our last one. At PW1, I think it's Peter Wilson. Charles Dunn can't defend.
I mean, past few games.
I can't defend Charles Dunn in response to that tweet.
There's been a few moments, I'm normally one to try and defend players as much as I can,
particularly defenders.
Yeah, I'll die on my Joe Shaughnessy hill that he's the best defender we've had at the club, and I'll ever.
Send us a wee DM, Joe, if you.
I'm Joe Shaughnessy, and you're listening to Misery Hunters.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers. But yeah, he has, done has been the problem to quite a few of the goals that we've conceded.
Yeah, I think I just expected more. That's the disappointing thing.
I think he had a run of games where he looked solid, but then so did Cole Kipawa.
Yeah. Maybe without Goodwin there, we're not going to expect him to do the same amount of big diagonals and all the other stuff, which isn't his game. And if he can just tighten up a bit at the back, maybe he'll be better under Robinson. And I don't think a left-footed centre-half who's genuinely comfortable bringing the ball out should be sniffed at, because it might take us longer than you would think to replace that like for like. But on current performances, there isn't that much evidence to kind of argue against that tweet, I don't think, about his defensive stature for now. I think he's just looked a bit out of sorts. And at this point, where it's March, it'll be April by the end of the week, you're kind of running out of goodwill to say, no, he'll turn it around and he'll come good, for a guy that's experienced and has a lot of miles on the clock. So I think he's one that I wouldn't be shocked to see us try and upgrade on that in the summer. But it is what it is.
Yep. And I think on that note, we'll end it there. Paisley Craft... that's not the... Sorry, wrong website. miseryhunters.co.uk.
I mean, by all means, go on both, but don't go on that first one if you're looking for t-shirts.
miseryhunters.co.uk. Andrew Christie's blogs are up there. Our t-shirts this weekend is free postage, Friday to Sunday. Get the John McGinn meatball t-shirt on there. He's just bossed it again for Scotland. Get the Alex Grave t-shirt on there. Come on, that is a good design. I want to see.
If you know folk that like the Scotland national team, or who like Hibs, or Aston Villa, and who like John McGinn, or if you just know people that like Scran, who like spaghetti and meatballs. If you've got Italian relatives who are particularly passionate about that kind of thing, let them know that t-shirt's there. It's there for all comers. It's not a St Mirren t-shirt, so.
And it's available in tie-dye as well. So
is that bordering on offensive? What I've just said, is that?
I don't
maybe
think so.
Pushing me into the realms of xenophobia?
I mean, like spaghetti and meatballs isn't a thing in Italy, so you're fine. It's a more of an American Italian thing. So.
What I should have said there is if you had Italian American relatives. Sorry, that's a much more sensitive thing for me to have said.
Yeah. And also, the Saints sleep out is Friday the 8th of April. If you're wanting to spend the night at the stadium sleeping pitch side, I mean, how many people want to say that they've slept in St Mirren Park and not because they're pissed in the toilet?
I've certainly slept there during games under Gus McPherson. I've seen Lee Irwin sleep through a few things.
But if you want to get involved and fundraise for St Mirren's charitable foundation and shelter, spaces are limited, so you can, if you still want to do that, you can email foundation@stmirren.com to register. So get on that if you want to be charitable and have a night in the stadium.
I was really keen on that when it first started getting spoken about, and it's just bad luck that it's come up a week where I can't manage it. I've got stuff on, but I think I think I'd be, if you're on the fence about doing it, I would say definitely go for it. It's something that you can say that you'll have done far beyond it. And I think if they do it again, I would certainly be putting my name in for it. I was quite keen for us to do something, take along, sit up in the media seats in the main stand if they'd let us, and take the laptops and the mic down and speak to folk and do something a little different. If people want to record voice notes and send them to us, we'll listen to them. We probably won't put them in a podcast, but
maybe we'll see. We'll see how light is the subject. If
there's only two of us next week,
if there's only two of us next week, and we've lost 3-0 to Motherwell. I mean,
then take that as a challenge. If you want to start sending me voice notes and voice messages on Twitter @PTF blog, then fill my DMs, and I'm more than happy to pretend that I've listened to them. But enjoy the sleep out is my kind of basic message there.
And if you need a little warmer and you need to sneak some like alcohol in, like I don't know if you're allowed to, or you're probably not, but paisleycraftbeer.com, if you make a wee order, I'm sure it'll be fine.
The guys at Teardrop Gin are pretty cool as well.
Yeah. But as always, fuck Alex Ray.
Fuck Will Smith.